Well, hey, we are ending our in-person gatherings for Reframing Rest, this series on Sabbath that we've been in today, because next Sunday, we are providing what we are calling a Sabbath Sunday. No in-person gatherings this next weekend on December 1st. We are encouraging, challenging all of us to put into practice what we've been talking about throughout this whole series. You can jump online on our website or YouTube channel. There will be a short, about a 12-minute mini message on me to wrap up the series, answering the question, what does Jesus think about the Sabbath? Sharing a few things in there that we haven't talked about yet in the series. But I wanted today to have a panel discussion with some people in different stages of life, talking about their Sabbath practice and being able to answer any questions that maybe some people might have about Sabbath as well. And so you get to participate today in the message. We need your help. If you get out your phone, you can go to slido.com, SLIDO.com, or scan the QR code that's on there. You can put in the code. Once you get there, it'll get you into the Q&A for today, and you can ask anonymously any question you want about the Sabbath that we will do our best to answer. And if you don't ask questions, we'll make up some. And so you're going to want to ask some questions. And so make sure and go to slido.com, put in that code, or scan the QR code. It'll take you there. And then you don't even have to ask a question. If you just log in, you'll see any question being asked. If you hit the thumbs up, the like button on the question, it will start to bump up to the top the most commonly liked questions. And so the ones that people want to get answered the most will rise to the top, and we'll do our best to answer those. And then any questions that we don't get to, if there are some we don't get to, my wife and I are going to do our best to answer them on our podcast. All the links, I believe, are on the message notes section of the Harbor app, and resources available as well for the Sabbath that we've talked about. So we do have a panel with us. This is my wife, Sabrina. She's joining me today on the panel. We have Farron Gillespie as well. And we have, go Farron. And we have Justin and Kinsey Ruskevich. Everybody, they cheered more naturally for Farron, but.
Don't do that.
And Justin, Farron, and myself, we love talking in microphones. Kinsey and Sabrina really don't, and so we'll see how this goes today. It's very much outside their comfort zone and very much inside of ours, so we might be mic hogs today. We'll see how it goes. But I've got a couple of questions to get us started, and if you, again, have a question and you want to put on Slido, you want to hear us try to answer, that would be great. But I just wanted to ask you guys, and we'll start with as we call them on staff, Justin Rusty Cabbage, because nobody can say his name. So we're going to ask the Ruskeviches first. How long have you been seeking to practice the Sabbath? And then what led you to that? And maybe share about your specific stage of life that you're into.
Yeah, so we are young, married, and we have a 1-year-old at home. So our stage is really busy. But about 2 years ago, our previous church was going through a study called Emotionally Healthy Spirituality. And at the time, we were just working a lot, and we rarely saw each other. So we knew that we needed a Sabbath rhythm to not only connect with each other, but to connect with God and actually have a rhythm of rest.
Yeah, I would just add, we've been Sabbathing for about 2 years now. I saw a journal of mine when I was like 17. I'm gonna Sabbath. That didn't really take off for a few years, but yeah, so we've been doing it for 2 years. A lot of learning as we go, still a lot of learning as we're going now, and but it's been an incredible blessing the last 2 years.
Awesome. And then Farron, why don't you share? Same question, but I'll repeat it just for reference sake. But how long have you been seeking to practice the Sabbath? What led you to do that? And then if you want to share about any of your stage of life as well that might be applicable.
So I've been practicing the Sabbath not perfectly, let me be so clear. For about 4 years now, I did a leadership discipleship program after I graduated college. And a lot of that program consisted of us doing lots of spiritual disciplines like memorizing scripture and praying and fasting and all these things. And so it felt natural for us to also practice the Sabbath. So I've been doing that for about 4 years, just like as I've moved and things. And now I get to do it all by myself in my own apartment by myself, which is having to say that I'm a single lady, though. There you go. Yay. It's over.
Should I sing the song?
Band-Aid rip. Don't sing the song.
Are you sure?
I'm begging you. I'm begging you not to.
I sang it earlier. I thought you wanted
I
us.
love when Beyonce sings that song.
Okay, just
I
not
do.
me.
Not right now.
Okay.
Ooh, burn.
All right.
Done.
Take notes, fellas.
So I don't know if we've. I didn't even hear what you said.
I said take
What's
notes,
the
fellas.
next question?
Never mind. That's
Yeah,
fine.
let's get to that one.
I don't know
See
if I've
that.
shared in the series what led my wife and I to start practicing the Sabbath, but for us, it was January of 2020. I was listening to a sermon series from a church in New Jersey called Liquid Church by Pastor Tim Lucas, and he was doing a message on the Sabbath, and my mind was blown. For my entire life, I had not really been practicing the Sabbath. I've been taking some days off, but not really intentionally practicing the Sabbath. I was at the church office I was at the time on a Sunday afternoon. I texted Sabrina. I was like, you got to go listen to this message. And she went and listened to it, and we were both immediately challenged and convicted that we had been, one, not receiving the rest that God intended, but two, that we had perhaps been ignoring one of God's commandments to us intended for our good. So I don't know if you want to add anything to that or not.
I would just say that, I was so convicted that I had been breaking the fourth commandment.
Yep.
And I thought I had been following all 10 pretty well, but apparently not. And that was just so challenging. I remember listening to that sermon maybe 2 or 3 times to like let it sink in. And then we just started diving into what the heck does this mean?
Yep. And so it'll be 5 years this January that we have been intentionally seeking to practice the Sabbath in our life. And not perfectly either, and have grown and changed so much in even how we practice the Sabbath, learning what does this rhythm look like? What are the things that we enjoy and don't enjoy? What takes away, what makes us exhausted? What gives us rest? And so it's been a work in progress for sure. So we'll get to, so you guys are asking some questions here, and there's some great ones. So let me start with going back to the Ruskeviches here. What right now does the Sabbath look like for you guys? Like, how are you guys trying to practice it on a weekly basis?
Yeah, great question. So Kinsey mentioned that we have a 1-year-old in the home, Malachi, and if y'all know Malachi, we're busy. We love our son, and we moved from Michigan, actually this time last year. It's crazy to think it's been a year now, but it's definitely evolved and changed over time as just our lives have changed so much over the last couple of years. So right now, our Sabbath does revolve around having our son. And, when he wakes up, we're obviously awake. And when he naps, we try to nap. And I think one of the most important things for us is that, it is overcoming this lie to think that it's selfish for us to take care of our own selves and cultivating Sabbath rest individually and together. And so one of the things that's helped Kinsey and I in this season where it's busy, even on a day where we don't make plans, our plans revolve around our son, and that can be tiring, is just choosing to give each other the opportunity to get away, to be with the Lord, to go get coffee with a friend, to go read a book, to just take a walk. That's also another thing we do. We take a walk. We just enjoy that. We typically go to Lake Friendswood or Stevenson. If there's ever park recommendations, y'all can hit me up. We're obviously looking for that. We have no clue anything else around here. We're still figuring it out. So that's one of the biggest things for us. And then just at the end of the day, so Kai goes to sleep around 7 or 8 or 9, depending on if he wants to party. But after we enjoy some time together, we take some time to just have some devotional time to pray together, and just wrap up the night a little bit early, knowing that I'm going to be here early on Sunday morning. So, one thing I'd say for our experience, and I'm sure a lot of people in this room who have young kids or have just incredibly busy schedules, is I can't stress enough how impactful it's been to help each other find those pockets of rest and Sabbath. And sometimes, you know, it's more than just trying to find our way to survive through a Sabbath. Like, there's really an opportunity to thrive. It's just having realistic expectations based off of where your life is at in this season. I don't know if you had anything you wanted to add to that, but yeah, that's it for us.
Awesome.
Well, I should mention, we do have pizza on Saturdays.
That's right.
That is
You do have pizza.
Sabbath tradition, so
That's
we
awesome.
will not stop that.
Yeah. Farron?
I like to have a list of things or just something in my head of things I typically enjoy on Sabbath. Because for me, it is so hard to wake up and be like, yeah, what do I want to do today? Like 8 million things. And so it's really helpful for me. I've been traveling a lot because I've had a lot of friends getting married lately. And so specifically in this time, just like letting my mind catch up with my body and like vice versa. And so just making space for all of my racing thoughts to be planted somewhere. I call them parking lot thoughts, where it's like, hey, right now I'm choosing to rest in the Lord and believe that I don't have to accomplish or achieve anything in order for God to be who he's always been and who he always will be. And so it's a lot of just like, okay, I can't think about that right now, or it's not wise for me to be worried about like my budget right now because I am just trying to rest in the Lord and his provision. So it's a lot of like, I might go to a coffee shop, I might go for a walk. I will always take a nap. I will always take a Sabbath nap until I physically cannot.
Amen.
And then I'll just do it anyway. I don't know.
Right.
I like to make breakfast. I like to read. I've been watching a lot of football. There's been a lot of football going on. So really just trying to have things that I know already, like I will typically enjoy, but also giving myself space if I like want to watch a random movie and then I don't like it. It's like, oh, it's okay. It was just about enjoying the film for what it is. So.
Jeff, you probably enjoyed your Saturday yesterday with your football team.
I wasn't going to bring it up, but yes.
Yeah, right.
Yes,
Why'd
I
you do
did.
that?
I
Hey,
think
why'd
that's a
you do that?
celebratory moment. Can we just, come on, praise the Lord. I mean,
He's
roll
hijacking
tears,
the
right?
panel.
That's really why we gave, next Sunday is Sabbath Sunday, because the Longhorns and Aggies are playing the day before, and we know there's going to need to be some rest after that.
Amen.
For somebody.
Some squabbles.
What day do you guys Sabbath typically?
Saturdays.
Okay,
So
Saturday,
we go.
same.
Yeah.
I'm also Saturday, but sometimes Friday.
Okay.
Depending.
Yep. Okay. That's awesome. Okay, we got some questions coming in, and again, you can ask yours. We'll try to get to as many as we can. But here's the one with the most votes. Actually, there's a tie for 2. So here's the top one. How do you handle meals? Do you cook more ahead of time, order takeout or delivery? How do you guys handle meals? You already mentioned you get pizza.
Yeah, I'll say this: we could definitely do better with that, and I mean me for sure. Of course, we do the pizza, which is like a fun part. It's our evening dinner. Malachi loves pizza, so that's just an easy one for us. And then typically we really, it's nothing too planned. Like we just have some stuff around the house, maybe leftovers from the night before, and that really, one of the things that. When you were sharing a little bit about how you guys approach the Sabbath has been challenging me is like prepping food better the day before and having like a feast. Like I'd love to get to that point, but we're still getting there. Sometimes it's just a sandwich, you know what I mean? But there is a Sabbath in the sandwich. There's a message in that. Anyway, I don't know if you have anything to add, but yeah.
Aaron, anything about cooking food or anything?
Yeah, I love to bake. So
Yeah.
I intentionally like try and do all my dishes and everything the night before. So that way on Sabbath, I can just like rinse a plate, golly, and just throw it in the dishwasher. But I like to cook, so
Yeah.
I'll make breakfast, I'll make some lunch, I might get Wingstop for dinner, but I plan for it, so it's okay. So, yeah.
We've also been doing, for the most part, pizza every Sabbath on Friday night before heading into the Sabbath on Saturday. But I mean, one of the things that was on your stop list was cooking. Sabrina does primarily the cooking in our house, and so one of the things that she tries not to do on Sabbath is cook. But we do a lot of leftovers, or like I'll sometimes make a big breakfast. If she doesn't want what I'm making, you'll typically make a small breakfast, and then we just kind of graze the rest of the day. Lots of snacking.
Really, breakfast is, we had pizza that night
before.
before, but then breakfast is the only meal I do. If he doesn't make me breakfast, which sometimes he does, but I will usually make breakfast, and then I literally just snack all day. I don't ever really eat another meal.
Yep.
It's just a lot of crap sometimes.
Wow.
Like yesterday, I ate a lot of candy.
Make note. She said crap,
She said
not
that.
me.
She said that.
Ooh, am I not
Don't worry
supposed to
about
say
me.
that?
It's okay.
Oh, man. Well, good. Then I'll never have to come back up here again. So, crap. I am one and done. Don't give me a microphone.
That's best Sunday ever right here. That's awesome. What's the thing I make that you enjoy the most? Not very many things.
And biscuits and gravy.
Hey.
He's got one meal he can make. His twin brother taught him how to make homemade gravy. You have not done it in
I've not
months,
done it in a while.
but that is a treat.
Yeah, it's awesome. Great question. Here's another one that's on top of the list. What was the hardest part about starting Sabbath as a type A personality? So I am definitely type A. I got my list I want to do. My day looks a certain way. I don't know anybody else's personalities up here. Sabrina is not that way. So I can speak for myself, and if there's any other type A personalities, they can as well. I was on the struggle bus for a long time with Sabbath. I just didn't know what to do with myself. Sabrina will even say that, she says it a lot, you were driving me crazy. I would just be pacing the house, not knowing, what do I do? What do I not do? What should I do? And I'd open my computer and close my computer. And it took me a long time before I got into a mode where I, first of all, could recognize and receive, even if I don't accomplish anything, I am fully loved by God. That was probably the biggest thing for me to receive. I don't have to accomplish something to have worth and value in the eyes of my Creator. And so when I fully grasped that and was able to do some heart work with that, I was able to release my to-do list and my need to accomplish things on the Sabbath. And where now I'm in a rhythm that I don't rush to come out of Sabbath. I used to even rush. Like I was counting down the time until Sabbath was over so I could start working again. And that's long gone for me after 5 years of practicing. So Bill, you want to speak into that?
Yeah, I definitely struggle still. I don't like mess. And
Yeah.
so having a 1-year-old who likes to just throw toys everywhere, I struggle so hard. Like at nap time, I don't need to clean up all the toys because he's just going to throw them again and I can go take a nap also. Or at the end of the day, dishes. I still do the dishes. I still do the dishes on the Sabbath because I cannot look at a dirty sink and go to bed knowing that it's just gonna be there in the morning. So instead, I'll just put on like a podcast or a book and then I'll do them that way. So
awesome, that's good.
But that's still something I struggle with.
I don't know if I'm type A, but I be thinking a lot. So I personally just try really hard not to look at the clock. To me, like the hardest part about Sabbath is thinking like, is this wasting my time? Like if I don't like this, is this gonna be a waste of my time? And I just choose to like do not disturb my watch so I don't get that notification every 50 minutes that I need to stand up because I don't want to stand up. So be quiet. But I just try not to look at the clock and I try to be okay with like, man, I might do something longer than I meant to, or man, that might take up more time than I thought. And I didn't really like this, or I don't know if I feel rested necessarily, but I'm choosing to see the day, like the 24 hours, as something that God has given me to do whatever I want with. That is like glorifying to Him and brings delight to my heart. And so if I don't think about the clock, I think that takes a lot of at least pressure on myself, because then I'm not thinking like, oh man, the sun is going down. Does that mean it's 6 o'clock? Does that mean I should do this? Should I put my retainer in? Like, it just stops. And I just go to bed. So
Awesome, that's good. The dishes was a big one for me to let go of. I like having a clean kitchen. It's actually one of our Sabbath prep chores is getting the entire kitchen, microwave, everything cleaned and ready to go so that then the next day we get it all dirty again. But that's been something very, very hard for me to let go of, and it's been a process. I'm probably still struggle with it some as well. One of the things that actually helped me, so we used to start Sabbath at 6 p.m. Friday, end it at 6 p.m. Saturday. We just recently moved to when we go to bed Friday night, Sabbath begins until we go to bed Saturday night. And so really, there's no work to be done until we're up again on Sunday morning. That's actually helped me as somebody who was a clock watcher, waiting for Sabbath to end to start doing things. It's helped me to not have an end, that I just go all the way until I go back to bed again. So that's helped me as a type A person that has things waiting to do, that I know they're just gonna have to wait till tomorrow. It's been a little bit of an adjustment for you, because I would typically at 6 p.m. Saturday get the kitchen all cleaned up again, and we had to talk about that. Are you comfortable with saying, hey, that's gonna wait till Sunday morning, and then kind of you're responsible for it? So it's been a little bit of an adjustment for us, but for the type A person, it's hard for me to rest when things are not tidy. Just have that, I know that I don't have to get to it, that the next day it'll all get done. It's just, again, a reminder of even when I am not spinning, the world still spins. God's in control even when I'm not. That's a big, big thing for me as somebody who likes to be in control. So, thank you. Here's another great question, by the way. How should I practice Sabbath when my spouse does not? Great question. Anybody have an immediate answer you want to give?
Not married, so sorry if this is offensive. I think it's okay to let Sabbath be something that you're choosing to do and let your mind be Sabbathing, even if the person next to you isn't. Because the reality is on a Saturday or a Sunday or whenever you Sabbath, the rest of the world isn't anyway. And so it's okay for you to do what you think God would be leading you to so that you can give yourself rest. And I also think, again, not married, just making assumptions. I think that's a really powerful thing to communicate to someone that's so close to you. Man, I care so much about what God is giving me and commanding me to do that for right now, I'm willing to hold space for that. Even if it means you're mowing the lawn and I'm not cleaning the gutters next to you. Or use your own example, but there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, as far as experience goes, we thankfully have really gone into this together. Now, there definitely have been times where, whether it was her or myself, where we were just busy with work or busy with things in life, and we had to make a personal decision to say, hey, I'm going to not be maybe a part of this event or a part of this thing and get my rest in. And sometimes that Sabbath just looks like, different times. We've had times maybe had to take a different day because of just some kind of schedule conflict that just was outside of our control. But as far as if you have a spouse who's not practicing the Sabbath, whether it's because they can't, if they're not willing to, God knows. And what I would just say on just the end of where your heart is, that God sees you, God sees your spouse. Do not underestimate the power of prayer. To pray for your spouse, to pray for God's grace and love to shower over them. Because and I'm going to say a little bit of a loving thing and also a little bit of a challenge. The Sabbath is our moment to be loved by God and to love God. And so you can do that. Even if your spouse isn't signing up for what you're doing, you can love God and be loved by God and embrace that. And on the challenge end, a part of Sabbath, if you look at within the Old Testament with God's people, why they Sabbath was because it consecrated them. It set them apart from everyone else in the world as God's people. And I think there is a part of Sabbath today that's meant to set us apart as God's people, because normal's not working in this world. Busyness, the chaos of our schedules, especially in this side of the world, it is driving us up a wall, and it's going to lead to burnout. It's going to lead us to disconnect between ourselves and God and then each other as well. I don't think we can afford to not do the Sabbath just because someone we love is not doing the Sabbath. And what I would say is you would be the most loving spouse to practice the Sabbath and any spiritual discipline or habit that is good for your soul, because it's going to make you better in your marriage. It's going to make you stronger in your family. It's going to make you more free to walk out your faith and your relationship with God. That's what I would say, just as an encouragement to don't be afraid to stand out, and don't underestimate the power of praying for your spouse in this.
Yeah, it's good. I would just add, just know whoever that is, or if there's multiple people, you're not alone in that. That's very, very common. Because I do feel like the emphasis on Sabbath keeping in modern day evangelical Christianity is this new wave of emphasis in the last 10 years or so. It's always kind of been there, but there's been a new wave of emphasis in modern day evangelical Christianity. And so you're not alone in that. And I would even just try to find, obviously you don't want to cause conflict in your relationship. So what are ways that you can intentionally kind of set that day apart without driving a wedge between you and your spouse? In no way would we say practice it no matter what they think. You want to maintain unity while at the same time committing a portion at least of that day to the Lord in Sabbath. It's a great question. You're not alone. Excellent advice was given there, and hang in there. Keep doing what you can and pray that the Lord will soften your spouse's heart to see the benefits in it as well. Here's a question: is practicing Sabbath on a Sunday okay with wanting to go to church / sometimes volunteering at church on a Sunday? Absolutely Sabbath on a Sunday. I don't think there's a certain day that you have to. To me, the principle is one day every 7. And so we have done Sabbath on probably at some point every single day of the week at some point, depending on what our life schedule was going on, that we knew something was happening, so we Sabbath on Friday, or we Sabbath on Sunday, we Sabbath on Monday. I think we've literally done at some point every day of the week. If I was not a pastor, if this was not my job, I think I probably would Sabbath on a Sunday, because then I get to come worship with my family of God, and worship is a part of Sabbath. The volunteering piece is an interesting one, because for some of our people who serve, like our worship and production team, they were here at 6:30 or before this morning. They will stay all the way till after the next service is done. That is a long time to give. Now, for many of them, it might still be life-giving and delightful, and they would include it in their Sabbath, but you got to kind of determine that on your own. Like, what for you is life-giving, is restful, and is Sabbath-worthy. The volunteering one is an interesting one to me that I would be hard for me to navigate and try to figure out like what is and what is not restful, but only you can determine that. I don't know if there's any other thoughts on that, but Sunday is definitely okay. Many Christians Sabbath on Sunday.
Yeah, as a student pastor, I know that that's going to be one of the most challenging things. You have your kids in sports, or they're in different clubs, or maybe they're in a play, or any kind of concert. So there's going to be a very sometimes sporadic schedule that we have with kids who are in school. And I've encouraged parents to, it's about finding those pockets of rest. And so, kids, they're going to have such formative experiences growing up. And if you decide, between you and your spouse, hey, we're going to have them commit to this sport, they want to commit to it, that doesn't mean that you can't Sabbath. I actually had a family who gave some great advice that I just loved and I held on to, that, sometimes they have a game to go on a Saturday and that's their day of Sabbath. They'll go, and maybe they might not be as into the game as they would. Maybe they just take some time to go and talk with God, or bring a book, or bring some family and spend some time. So it's all about delighting in the Lord and delighting in the company of others around you in order to give you rest. And so I think that it's very possible, and I would just repeat what you said, Jeff. It's just choosing to find that day that works best for you, for your family. And again, it's all about making progress as time goes along, not perfection in that. And so Sunday might be that best day. I've found that a lot of, the majority of sports stuff slows down on Sundays. Not always true for some travel teams, for sure. So there is going to never be a perfect day, I guess. But finding the right one, for sure, it's probably the best way to go.
Yep, it's good. All right, I have a hard time not thinking about everything that has to get done. For those of us who are constant thinkers, what are some ways to give our minds rest?
Ditto. I think I can't really emphasize this enough, that like the Sabbath is a practice that you don't get like pro level at. You just have to constantly like train yourself and your mind and just like your schedule to embrace what the gift of the Sabbath is. And so when I first started Sabbathing, like I was someone, literally every 30 minutes, I would have to like remind myself, I'm doing this for a purpose. This is good for me. This is restful for me. I am not what I do. I am not what God needs me to be for everybody else. I just get to be his like child right now. And so it went from like every 30 minutes to maybe like every hour to every 2 hours. Right now, that's like the range I'm at, where usually every 2 hours I'm like, oh, should I be doing something? Or like, oh, I feel weird. And I think in some ways it's your mind coming off of the way that the rest of the world talks about work and your days. Like it's weird that even on off days, people are like, I have to accomplish something. But it's not an off day. You're just doing something that's not like in your office. And that's weird to me. I digress. I think it's definitely a challenge, but I think it is a challenge that the Lord is so eager to meet you in. If you can just take the space to say, I am not what I do. Like, it's actually not the most important thing about me. It is not like what God sent his son. Like, God did not send Jesus so that I could just work myself to death, essentially. And so just making space to put even that in your routine of like, okay, I'm choosing to do this because God is giving me this to use. And then you might not get better at it, but I don't think God minds if you call him up every 30 minutes and are like asking for his help in his grace. I think he's okay with that.
Yeah. And I would also say it's not wrong to think on the Sabbath. It's what are you thinking about? And is that causing you to go into work mode, planning mode, the insatiable desire for more? Is that what you're thinking about? I think if you're struggling with thoughts, thinking about things, that's a great opportunity to go to the Lord and say, hey, Jesus, why is this something that keeps coming to my mind? Like, why is this something I'm not letting go of so easily? And perhaps there's some work that God wants to do in you around those things you're thinking about. So thinking's a great thing on the Sabbath, to create space for us to sit and have conversation with God about what comes to our mind is a good thing. And so the Sabbath is not sitting around in a meditative state for 24 hours and not thinking of it, emptying your mind. It's meant for us to get our minds recentered and focused on the things of God. So if you're thinking about things, what can you do to refocus or recenter those things back onto the Lord's will and desire for your life? And it might be, your thinking might be the way God's getting to you to actually do some work with you in your heart. So don't necessarily abandon that, but work hard at kind of repointing those back to God. We have time for one more, and then as I said, my wife and I will try to get to as many of these as we can on our podcast. I don't have time to explain the name of the podcast, but if you search it, you'll find it, and just talk to me afterwards, and we'll tell you about it. So is it worthwhile to start with a short, for example, 4-hour Sabbath?
Yes.
Yeah. To me, that's a absolutely yes. I truly do believe this. Sabbath is counterintuitive to everything our culture teaches us. All of us are raised counter Sabbath in our lives. All of us, for the most part. And so to go from not Sabbathing intentionally to a full 24 hours can be very difficult. So I always say, God will meet you where you give him the time. And so if you can give him 4 hours, give him 4. But don't make that your goal to stop there. Start with 4, but make your goal to get to 5, and then 6, and then 7, until you get to a point where you've given him a full 24 hours. It's similar to how you train for a marathon. Very few people sign up for a marathon and don't do any training. You start from the couch. There's a reason why it's called couch to 5K training, and you ease your way in until you are then running a marathon. And so if you try running a marathon without the training, you're going to injure yourself. And so if you try Sabbathing without maybe easing into it, doesn't mean you have to, but it's going to be really, really hard to go a full 24 hours if you've not been doing that at all in your life. So, but yeah, absolutely, start somewhere. Intentionally say, God, I'm giving you this time to Sabbath, to rest, to delight, to worship you, and I think God will honor you right there in it. You guys asked some amazing questions. Can you thank these folks for helping out today? You guys did a great job, thank you. And my wife opened the door to saying crap, so. Hey, on your seats when you came in are invite cards to our Christmas sermon series starting in 2 weeks. We're not here this coming Sunday, so Sabbath Sunday, but starting on December 8th, we are starting a Christmas series message called The Message from the Manger. I am super excited about this series, and we're gonna look at different messages that came from the manger when Christ was born. I think it's gonna be very, very powerful. So use these to invite someone to attend with you, and then we'll start telling you about Christmas Eve in a couple of weeks as well. And then if you're here and you need prayer for anything going on in your life, you can stop by our prayer team, the back left corner of the room on your way out, and they'll make sure and pray for your need. I love you guys. Let me pray for you, and then we'll get out of here. Lord, thank you so much for today. Thank you for just the gift of talking about this rest that you have rooted into the rhythm of creation. Lord, for all of us, whether we start with 40 minutes or 24 hours, I pray that each person who engages with the Sabbath would receive what you promised, rest for our souls. We love you, Lord, and give you praise. In Jesus' name, amen. Thanks, guys. See you.